The First Book of Azura. "Are you heading out?" Carson called to his newly teen daughter. "I'm just going into the forest." Azura pouted like tweens have since the dawn of time when asked by their father where they are going. "Might want to get some content while you're out there. You know how the algorithm is. Even for a girl like you in a dead zone, there is still some content, civic duty and all. Besides, we don't need any extra unwanted attention." Her father reminded her in a tone that was the explanation, but with some compassion, truly worried for his family and preserving their way of life. "What do you need in the forest?" His love spilling over as nosy, intrusive, controlling. Dad being a dad. Wanted to grab some mushrooms as well as a few things from the garden for dinner tonight. A small smile growing over her face, enjoying her time alone in the forest almost as much as cooking what she brings back. "Sounds good," her father replied enthusiastically. "Oh, who's Buggle Boy 44? He threw it out there just as his daughter turned to leave. Frozen, searching for an answer, she knew the handle, but why does her father? "He cast a bid on you." He finished the thought, almost anticipating her next question. "I know you have zero interest in all this, but you have to at least engage with him. It's what girls your age do." He begged her, knowing her disgust for what other girls her age do. "We can't be drawing any extra attention. Not from the eye, not from the algorithm. None of them, remember?" Taking her by her chin, ensuring they were making eye contact. Her father could always read her mind when he stared directly into her eyes, a primitive trait passed down for generations. No additional tech needed. She nodded with acceptance, breaking his gaze. At least she wasn't being pressured into going through with the whole fiasco that is Red Day. She could play along, especially to screw with the algorithm. Oh, how she loathed the algorithm. Stopping at the edge of the garden as she made her way out the front door, Azura decided to head to the forest first. What herbs and vegetables she grabbed in the garden would depend on the treasures she found at the base of the mighty pines, nestled in the dark, rich soil and fallen foliage. Most girls her age loved flowers, the pretty, vibrant colors, the sweet, seductive scents, all the trappings of sex, allure, desire, reproduction. They made great content. People can't get enough of bright flowers as the sun is setting. Easy likes. Azura never understood flowers, their appeal. Dandelion tea was okay, but really flowers for the most part were useless. All sizzle, no substance. Azura preferred mushrooms. What little content she did create to satisfy the algorithm usually contained mushrooms. Most people think drab and boring earth tones when they hear mushrooms, but they are so much more than that. Reds, yellows, and even the occasional green, or if you're really lucky, a suite of blues. Find them in the wild with a sliver of sun navigating through the branches, tailor-made for decent content. Not really seeing anything content-worthy, Azura chose to head deeper into the forest. She knew of a perfect spot for porcini, but slowed her pace, the little girl in her coming out, scared. Her father never underestimated the danger they always were in. Living, caring for the forest, in a dead spot, outside Adam's protection. "Stop being such a little baby. Manhattan and Redondo keep the banished far from here. Are we really going to let a ghost story stop us from those porcini?" Her inner monologue calling her out. A snap of a branch just behind her stopping, interrupting her, that rhetorical hype man all but forgotten now. The whole of her brain power honed on finding the source of that snap. The rogue sunlight driving her deeper into the forest than usual, farther than she should be, and starting to worry she would find out the hard way to stay where she was told. Fight or flight, the primitive instinct running rampant in her mind. She knew she had to do something and fast, but instead was frozen in fear. Holding perfectly still, waiting for any new information to help her decide which baser instinct to follow, when a figure stepped forward from between a pine and the undergrowth. She could see he was considerably taller than her, but that wasn't saying much. At barely 5 feet, most people were taller than her. But he had to be a good foot taller, with the light solely behind him, a silhouette at first. The stranger took another step forward, hands outstretched. Azura's eyes adjusted as he moved, allowing more light to give her a better view. She could see him clearer, her eyes adjusted, light properly lit his face. Not much older than her, late teens, 20 at most, his attire immediately stole her focus. Unlike most girls her age, she wasn't one to normally concern herself with what one wears, but his ensemble was so jarring, so alien to her, she couldn't help but focus on it. He had big, soft, pale blue eyes, eyes she instantly trusted. An innocence, a purity that seemed lacking from this world. Flight was no longer on the table. Azura slowly raised to her feet. "I don't mean you any harm," extending her arms out, matching the stranger's universal sign that they come in peace. The young man getting a better view of her now, the two silently evaluating each other, scanning for any sense the other might still be a threat. "My name is Azura," she said softly, as if trying to not scare off a lost deer, cautiously taking a step forward towards the stranger. Then a second step and a third before stopping frozen again. Barely more than a meter away, she could really get a good look at what was behind those eyes. Soft, sky-blue eyes. "Your eyes," she started before freezing again. The color stunned her, but the pupil's absence of a lens that shocked her. The banished had their lens removed as part of their punishment, but that left a scar this stranger was missing. "Where's your lens?" she asked without even realizing it, wanting to grab the words as they were leaving her mouth to pull them back in, drawing attention to his most egregious sin. This stranger will definitely be choosing fight or flight now. Pausing, wanting to apologize for noticing its absence before realizing where she expected fear or anger, only to see confusion. "My what?" The stranger's voice exhaled with genuine concern. "I'm sorry, I just..." Stammering, apologizing, backpedaling. "I mean, you don't have the mark, so I just figured you were only a sus and still had your tech." Rambling, embarrassed, her head spinning, she needed a moment. "Are you okay?" The stranger lunging forward, reaching out an arm for her to steady herself. "Is this cashmere?" Caught off guard by just how soft his sweater was as Azura brushed against it, bracing herself. She could feel his warm breath on her skin. She recoiled, asking out of reflex to break whatever tension that was building. "It's not from the undercoat, but goat nonetheless." "Where did you get it?" A statement as much as it was a question, hating the inflection that came out at the end of that sentence, as was the fashion of so many girls her age. "Billy grew the wool, Sally spun it into yarn, and Edna knit it." Proud, reveling in the impressive feat of his kin. "You have a goat named Billy?" And with that, Azura finally understood why girls her age acted the way they did. Never before this moment did she want to be bid on. And with that answer, she never wanted anyone but this stranger to do so. "Why would you bring anyone, let alone a stranger, back here?" her father asked with a mix of anger and bewilderment. "Dad, you need to talk to him." Daddy's little girl pleaded, not like his little angel finding a puppy, "and can we keep him?" No. This was much more a burgeoning woman demanding him, knowing this man was exactly who her father, as well as she, had been searching for. And why's that? Carson wanted to still be angry at his little girl, but curiosity got the better of him. His anger justified, Azura broke the one cardinal rule: don't draw any unwanted attention to us. But he could see the impetuousness in her eyes. Ever the earnest father, he had to at least hear his little girl out. "You don't even need to talk to him. Just look him in the eye." And with a nod of his head, signaling to his youngest son to let in his older brother and their unexpected guest. "My name is Dove." He started the narrative he was rehearsing while waiting to be let in, only to be cut off abruptly as the roughly 40-year-old man took the boy's face in his hand. Fixing his gaze on him, Azura knew that lie detector stare all too well. Carson was in place and about to give the young Dove the signal to proceed as he noticed its absence. "Where is your lens?" Lie detector engaged. That wasn't what Carson planned as an opening question, but was unable to resist asking once he saw the absence in his eye. He truly was unprepared. His daughter couldn't have been more right. "I don't have one. Never did." Stated matter-of-factly, not the slightest hint of deception. "How is that possible?" Carson asked out of disbelief. Wanting to get up and pace the room, figure out what the hell was happening, but he couldn't break his gaze. He needed to be certain this how was the truth. He never needed to be more certain of any statement he had previously heard. "How? I am only as the good Lord made me." Carson's frustration overtook him. He leapt to his feet, wanting to lunge at Dove, pull the answer out of the boy, but pulled back and began pacing instead, moving chaotically around the small space, collecting his thoughts as though they had spilled out like so many marbles. Talk boy, Manhattan, the oldest son and by far the most physically imposing of anyone in the room, instructed with a ferocious jostling of Dove and his chair. I saw Azura in the woods, Dove began, head down, speaking to his boots. Why were you in the woods? Carson interjected. That seemed like a straightforward enough question. A question he truly wanted answered. I live there. When Dove first saw Azura in the forest, pale light making her glow like an angel, he figured that was proof the waters had receded, but now after meeting her father and brothers, he was no longer as certain. Dove would have told Azura anything, but now all he hears is his uncle, urging him not to say too much, to jeopardize the rest of the colony back at the Ark. I've never seen you before. Redondo, the younger of the two brothers, chimed in. Nor have I you, Dove replied, quickly into the hard wood planks, making up the floor in the small forest shack, never once looking up, acknowledging the boy. But you've seemed to take a liking to my daughter. Carson's tone shifted along with his approach. No need to hide it, boy. A father can sense these things. Less of a prisoner being interrogated by a captor and more of a young suitor being grilled by a wary father. Us out here in the forest, this dead spot, figured you would ask my daughter out the old-fashioned way, making sure to make the physical air quotes with his fingers. Seeing the teen boy in him boiling over, mix of anger, embarrassment, and youthful rebellion, Carson pushed more. Figured why not go super old school and ask her father's permission to court her. Now clearly mocking the boy, your daughter wasn't my mission, more a serendipitous twist of fate. Making sure Azura caught him standing up to her father and with such a witty retort as well. Careful, he had to play it cool for both his fact-finding mission as well as his side quest of the heart. What mission? Carson clearly catching the silent part that was said a bit too loud. I am the Dove. I am fated with determining if the floodwaters have subsided. A prisoner of war giving his name, rank, and serial number. Enough. Such a large sound from such a small body, both Carson and Dove shocked it came from Azura. You're all a bunch of silverback gorillas trapped in a zoo fighting over who controls the tire swing. Her eyes burning with disappointment. Men, always fighting, always so sure they have dominion over things that were never actually theirs. You need to stop this inquisition. Dove isn't a prisoner, he is our guest. Carson wanted to object, but all he could see was his departed Beverly when his little girl got angry. His eyes telling his angel, you are so much like your mother right now. Fighting back the urge to hug her father, she turned her attention to the boy from the woods. And you have a mission. A mission that my father might be the exact man alive to help you with. She reminded Dove of someone as well. He never knew Beverly, but instead saw a more divine origin behind her words. Dove knew not to argue with a command from above. The waters may not have receded, but if the world was worthy of saving, she would be his proof.
The world outside the Ark has chosen its savior, a perfect, effortless digital paradise that has quietly erased the human soul. But the fight to reclaim our divine heritage starts here. Can true faith survive a world that has evolved beyond the need for God? Click right here to step into the wasteland and stream the next chapter immediately. To read ahead and experience the ultimate clash between artificial grace and absolute faith, tap the link in the description to grab The Book of the Dove on Amazon today. Support an indie author by liking and subscribing. And let me know in the comments, would you surrender your struggle for a perfect silicon heaven? See you in the next chapter.